He enters the city in a provocative fashion, riding on an animal that symbols kingship. He performs a provocative act in the court of the temple, the overturning of the tables of the money changers, all for the sake of seeking to get the authorities to act. He engages in verbal conflict with the Pharisees and Sadducees and temple authorities, again, all for the sake of provoking them to take action against him. They do, and of course, Jesus is crucified, and as he is on the cross, he now expects that as the one who is to be the Messiah is being crucified, that God will finally have to intervene. Jesus deliberately gets himself executed for the sake of provoking God's intervention. And of course, he's wrong. And the paragraph, the brief paragraph with which Schweitzer ends the main body of the quest of the historical Jesus is very evocative in this respect. Schweitzer writes, "At midday of the same day, it was the 14th of Nisan, and in the evening the Paschal lamb would be eaten. Jesus cried aloud and expired. He had chosen to remain fully conscious to the last." End of quote. And what I hear in the way Schweitzer words that paragraph, I'm not sure if he intended this or not. Jesus chose to remain fully conscious to the last. He expected God to intervene and was waiting for that. And of course, he cried aloud and expired. What were Jesus' last words? Well, according to our earliest gospel, the Gospel of Mark, his last words were, my God, why have you forsaken me?" As he lies, as he hangs dying, he realizes that perhaps he was wrong about all of this. Schweitzer wrote, quote, "In the knowledge that he is the coming Son of Man," that is, in the belief that he will be transformed into the Son of Man, in the knowledge that he is the coming Son of Man, Jesus lays hold of the wheel of the world to set it moving on that last revolution which is to bring all ordinary history to a close. It refuses to turn. Parentheses, that's his sending out to the disciples and his expectation that the kingdom would come before they return. Resuming the quotation. And so he throws himself upon it. Then the wheel of history does turn, and it crushes him. Instead of bringing in the eschatological conditions, he has destroyed them. The wheel rolls onward, and the mangled body of the one immeasurably great man who was strong enough to think of himself as the spiritual ruler of mankind and to bend history to his purpose is hanging upon it still. That is his victory and his reign. One might think that Schweitzer's portrait of Jesus as a mistaken prophet of apocalyptic eschatology, and he wasn't just mistaken about some small detail, he was mistaken about the animating vision that drove his life. One might think that that would lead one to conclude that Christianity is founded on a huge mistake. For Schweitzer, not at all. His portrait does not threaten the truth of Christianity. Rather, for Schweitzer, the Jesus who matters is the living Christ, the spiritual Christ, the risen Christ, the Christ who sent him to Africa, who still lives today. Schweitzer made apocalyptic eschatology central to New Testament scholarship. By mid-century, apocalyptic eschatology had become the dominant paradigm for understanding Jesus, the Gospels, and early Christianity.